Welcome to the Corcoran Show. I am so excited about these series of interviews with each candidate for governor of South Carolina. You know, I think it's so important that we get to ask real questions and search for real answers. In the world we live in today, there's so many gotcha interviews and people trying to be celebrities as interviewers. To me, no, I just want to know on the record, where do these folks stand when it comes to life, liberty, history, the Second Amendment, and America first? I also want to know some key things about them personally. You know, these are all human beings. And before you go and vote in June, I think it's very important you get a chance to hear these people out. Now, I do not go out of my way in these interviews to attack them, to create some kind of viral moment. I get so tired of that. I'm sure you are as well. I just want you to have another resource to be able to make an informed decision when you go and vote in the June primary. And I think beyond that, it's important that you do your own research. Look at how they've voted, if they've been the state house, the state senate, in the Congress, and look at their actions and see, does that line up with what you hear in these interviews? My job is to just help educate and get you folks to know who these people really are. It's an honor to get to do this, and I hope you enjoy these interviews.
Welcome to the Corcoran Show, where liberty lives, history speaks, and patriots rise. From South Carolina, Eric brings you conversations with those defending liberty every day. Because at our core, what was written in the Declaration of Independence still matters today. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Welcome and enjoy the show.
Patriots, Eric Corcoran here in Charleston, South Carolina, continuing this series of interviewing the candidates for governor of South Carolina. Ron, Reddy, thank you, sir, for doing this.
How are you, sir?
Doing great. I'm delighted to continue to ask people heartfelt questions in search for heartfelt answers. And the voters, you out there, deserve to know who these folks truly are, not beyond sound bites and 40 seconds to answer a really
45.
Exactly. It's wrong to me. People want to know what folks really believe and who they are. So let me start off with the first question that really means a lot to me, especially in the world we live in today. Why are you, sir, a patriot?
I don't know that I'm a patriot, but I do believe in our foundational documents.
Yeah.
If you go back and read the Declaration, which I believe, by the way, is the founding principles of the Constitution. In the Declaration. The second paragraph of it says, we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights. What does that mean? It means our rights come from God.
Yes.
That's what I've always believed.
Right.
You know, that was one thing that always made America different from every other country in the world. The second thing that made it different was the next sentence, which says that government gets its power derives its power from the consent of the governed, which means that we give government the power to protect those God-given rights. And so I grew up with that. I believed in that so much. I felt that that's what made America different from almost every other country in the world. And honestly, I don't know why we've run away from it. So when you say patriot, I have to say, you know, it concerns me that those principles that made us the greatest, strongest, just think about it. We came here from all parts of the world, yes, right?
Yeah.
But
Ireland, yeah.
Yeah, but the sum of the total exceeds any of the individual parts. And you have to say why? Because of these principles that resulted in the Constitution,
Yes,
with the three co-equal branches that hold each other in check, so we're a free people.
so true. Well, on those founding principles that you're talking about, why is it important today in 2026, with all that's going on in the world, for us to go back to the founding and live that out? Not just talk, like Benjamin Franklin says, a republic if you can keep it. So
Yes.
Why does that matter to you?
So this started, you know, the shift away from those founding principles didn't start like 5 years ago. It started in the Woodrow Wilson, and I think he was the 28th president. And Woodrow Wilson said that the founding principles were obsolete. Americans I think his words were stubborn, arrogant, and lazy, or something to that effect, and that they needed to be governed. And that was the start of the administrative state.
Yes.
That Woodrow Wilson is when the administrative state started. that I call the fourth branch of government, the unelected bureaucrats. And in South Carolina today, it is out of control. And when I say out of control, wildly out of control. 101 agencies and a completely far from independent judiciary have taken the powers that we gave them and weaponized it against the citizen. So that's why I think it's so important to go back to where we started from. And that's why I think that it's the reason I actually got in the race. I've never wanted to be in politics. It's never been my goal to ever be in politics. I would have done it much earlier. And my wife says, I sure didn't want you to be in politics with our money. I'm the only one who's ever done that. And the reason is I just felt like we are never going to get back to these founding principles with the people who got us there. You know, if I look at my opponents, they're all part of the politicians. 53 years in office combined. You know, they all like to say, like Norman says, I think I saw him in the interview, he says, I'm not a politician. I said, well, you've been there for 21 years, so what do you have to be, 30 to be a politician? So I don't know. I feel like we cannot mislead people. You know, that's what makes the voters cynical.
Sure. Well, when you talk about you had the fourth branch, that's a very interesting way of putting it. Is that why you started Doge SC? You wanted to figure out where the money was going? What in the world?
Correct, yeah. So Doge SC started out with when I saw the power of government. I had, you know, I've run big manufacturing entities in the United States. That's what I did. I fixed companies. I was a fixer. I bought them, I built them, I grew them, I started them up. But the problem with that also was that to some extent, I was in a bubble because I had compliance groups and lawyers. I never dealt with government that much. And then on my property,
you're getting things done.
Yeah. And on my property, government came after me and they said, well, if water comes in, and whether it's marsh front, ocean front, creek front, whatever front, and erodes your property, we own it, even though you will keep paying taxes on it. I'm like, that doesn't sound like the Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. So I said, no, I'm not going to put up with it. And so I decided to fight it, and I saw the power of government. And then people started calling me from all over the state. They said, God bless you for standing up to these people.
Had a ripple effect.
And that's what started me. Then I started looking into it, you know, like what's going on? Then I looked into family courts, probate courts, what we're doing in
family courts is a terrible
what we're doing in family courts. And I say this very openly because I don't try to be politically correct in what I say.
Well, that's good. We need less of politically correct.
Family court is like a state-sanctioned criminal extortion enterprise. That's what we do. In the worst times in their lives, we destroy the kids and we destroy the parents. It's terrible what's going on there. And that's when I said, I need someone from the outside to run for office. And I wanted to back them. I would be much happier backing someone. And finally, it got to registration and no one ran. So here I am.
A real quick shout out, Michael Shirley and the Shirley family. They're one of our members in Businesses for Liberty, and he's been fighting the good fight in the family.
Oh, I love Michael. Michael and his sons are amazing. You know, you're talking about patriots. Well, there's true patriots.
Yes.
They are true patriots fighting the power of government on their own with no help from anyone. I know my wife Renee talks to him fairly frequently, and they're great friends.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go through a couple of things that mean a lot to me. So I am staunch pro-life, liberty, history, Second Amendment, America First. We're going to go through those one by one.
Sure.
So for you, when you hear the term pro-life, right, and how far can we go in South Carolina with preserving the lives of the unborn, saving, I suppose, the lives of the unborn, in your opinion?
I'm going to separate this into what I think, and then I'm going to separate into the role of government because I'm a constitutional guy. I have 2 grandchildren who were born at 25 weeks, plus or minus a week, and they're beautiful kids. And I'm really happy they're in this world. So me personally, you know where I stand. I'm very much pro-life.
Don't worry about it.
I've always been pro-life for me personally. But then I look and say, this is the difference. You know, it's not necessarily what I think, right? I believe that. But then I look and see what the Supreme Court said. The Supreme Court said this is not a federal issue. This is a state issue, which I totally agree with because the powers given to the federal government are very specific in the Constitution, and that's not one of them. So the Supreme Court said it's a state issue. So what happens here? For 10 years, they only have 5 months in session in South Carolina in our legislature. They spend half the time arguing about this issue and never reaching agreement. And finally, the Supreme Court says, okay, now it's the state's issue. So they argue some more, and they come up with a decision that says, okay, it's the heartbeat law, which is 6 weeks. That was a couple years ago. Now they're arguing about it again. And they say, we're going to fight with each other. We're going to argue with each other. They spent a good part of this session. And I'm just saying, stop. Enough. If you guys who represent the people cannot seem to reach agreement on this, it's been going on for, whatever, a decade, put it to a referendum. Ask the people what they think, because that's what the Supreme Court actually said. It is up to the decision of the people of South Carolina. It is not up to the decision of the loudest voice in the ruling class. And, so that's how I see it.
Well, I do remember years ago, California, they had propositions for the state to vote on a referendum. So you would like a similar...
is this, are you happy with what we've done? Or do you feel we need to take this next step? And the next step is a major step, because I think the people should have a say in it. It to some extent, the thing they're arguing about, and the reason they can't agree on it, is that it theoretically could put the woman in prison for 2 years.
Right.
And probably a tough time in her life. And I don't think that's something you do lightly, and you certainly not do it by some guy yelling about it in the legislature. I think we should ask the people.
If in your ideal world, where would you like to see it? The conception, a certain amount of weeks, like on pro-life, where would you like to see?
Well, for me, me personally, I'm pro-life. I would just say, every life is precious.
Amen.
And it's something. It's not you and I creating life. It's God creating life, right? And God picks you as the parent, or whatever. And I think when God does that, you have a responsibility to God. It's always God comes first, right?
Yes.
So you have a responsibility to God. So that's my personal belief. Yeah. But this is where, Eric, it gets really difficult. And we don't have a choice. It's a difference between what someone's personal belief is and what our Constitution is. And essentially what it's saying, what the Constitution is saying, is this is the decision for the people of the state. So and generally people elect these legislators to make decisions for them, but they can't seem to ever reach a decision. Right. They're fighting, arguing, wasting half the time, when everything else in this state is rotting. Our roads, our education, our median family income, violent crime. We've been in the bottom 10 now for 20 years. Nothing's changed other than our spending going up and our taxes going up. So it's like, let's put it to bed.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, no, thank you for that. So pro-liberty, I know this is kind of like a big one. To me, what I boil this down to is in 2020, we shouldn't have had lockdowns for so long. We shouldn't have businesses who were not essential or essential. What would you do as governor to make sure that would never happen again, where all these businesses
let me tell you what I did as a citizen. I was running a company with 500 people, and we got this federal mandate that said you have to force your people to vaccinate, or it's $2,000 per person per day. Fine. Day. Wow. So you can imagine, for me, times that by 500 people, it's like $1 million. So I'm on record. I called the governor. I said, Henry, what the heck are you doing? I said, this is state sovereignty. There is no way you should let the federal government do it. And there is no way in heck I'm going to tell my employees to put something in their body they don't want to keep a job that they need. So people, I just said, I'm going to take the fine. And then I called Ron DeSantis. And Ron DeSantis, to his credit, unlike our governor, he said, Ram, we're going to do something about it. And he challenged that federal rule, and eventually it got overturned. But for 2 months, I was wide open at $1 million a day. Not only that, Eric, I spent $400,000 defending this throughout the country, because we had operation in all 50 states. I am the only company that I know of that did not shut down for 1 day. I would file suit. My office came and said, in Charleston, they said, we're going to shut the office down because of the state matter. I said, you can't shut it down. I said, we're working. our people need a job. And he said, well, you got to get an exemption from whatever, from the government. So I applied for it, and they're supposed to get back to me in 2 days. Never got back to me, so I sued them. Yeah. And I sued Pennsylvania, where we were putting in a field. I walked away from a Green Bay Packers practice field because they wanted vaccine certificates for my people. I said, I'm not going to do that. I also made masking optional. I said, if you want to wear a mask, you want to wear a vaccine, you want to take the vaccine, do it.
Medical freedom.
It's not for me to tell you to do it. Right. I can give you information, unbiased information from all sides. I put brochures over. It's not for me to tell you what to do. Yeah. So yeah, we actually lived it. And South Carolina is lying to you, and they say, we didn't shut down. Right. We didn't do this. It's a lie. Yeah. They actually threatened to put people in jail. They shut down the beaches. They had all these mandates shutting down offices. It's horrible. I think the only governor I think handled it right was Ron DeSantis.
And think of it like religious freedom, right? How many churches were under
churches
duress as well?
Total assault. Yeah. But I go back to, we don't have any guiding principles anymore. Because if you had guiding principles, you will say, that is not the role of government. Yeah. Government's job is to protect your God-given rights.
No matter what.
No matter what.
That's the thing, right? Yeah, it was all
right.
Put into fear.
It's not a SAT test or some other test which is multiple choice. Right. Do it if you like it. There you don't have to follow it. No.
Well, I think in Matthew 6:33, seek Him first and His righteousness, all of the things will be added unto you, and that should apply to everything. That's 100%. So spot on. Well, while we're talking about that, I have to give another shout out. Pastor Marshall Blaylock, appreciate you, brother, and just the blessing you've been in my life and in your life as well. I hear.
Marshall has been one of the most amazing people. He is my pastor. We do attend the First Baptist in Charleston, and he has, and by the way, it's not just Marshall. His wife Kathy is just as amazing. My wife Renee goes to Bible study with her every Thursday, and they are both such amazing people. I'm telling you, if y'all are anywhere near downtown Charleston, that's where you need to go.
For history, actually, we're about to get into the history and many other reasons. So, okay, this is a big one for me personally. I put my life on the line for the preservation of history. I stood in front of BLM and Antifa to preserve our monuments and statues. As governor, if ever there was a whisper of statues and monuments coming down, what would you do to defend our history?
Well, come on. That's not what right do we have to do all this? Taking down monuments. Right. Again, it's just we don't have any principles. If we had a principle, we wouldn't do it, right?
Crazy.
And by the way, and I'm probably the only one who says all these types of things. This BLM thing is a hoax. I know. You know it's a hoax. Yeah. I know it's a hoax, but I don't hesitate to say it because I'd say I'd rather be morally correct than politically correct.
Yes.
And so I'm not going to say it. I think the whole thing was a hoax. People were just fooled by this whole thing, taking down statues, doing things. They ran around the Charleston looting this place and we had this woke mayor in Charleston actually told the cops to stand down. It's horrible. Yeah. All of this should never be done.
Happened. Right.
But the problem is South Carolina does not have a leader. Can you name who the leader in South Carolina? No one has. There's no leader. Yeah. So there's no one who sets a direction that says, this is what we believe in, and these are the principles we believe in. That's why you go down all these crazy paths.
Yeah. No, you're right, because I remember in 2020, it was just regular people who stood in front of the monuments. And if that hadn't happened, we would have lost all kinds of stuff.
We would have lost all kinds of stuff.
All over the state. So.
And you can't rewrite history.
No.
I mean, you can learn from history if you want, but you can't rewrite history. Who are we to rewrite history?
Yeah.
So.
I told BLM protesters who got in my face, did you have bad memories? Yes. Did you have good ones? Sure. Did you learn more from your bad than your good?
Yeah.
That'd be like me pulling all your bad memories out of you.
Yeah.
And now, who are you?
Yeah.
We have to learn from that. So, no, I appreciate that answer on that. That means a lot to me personally on that issue. Now, Second Amendment. We wouldn't have a First Amendment without the Second Amendment. What would you do as governor to protect the Second Amendment in South Carolina?
Look, First Amendment, Second Amendment, any other amendment, like I said, this is not a multiple choice test. The Constitution basically gives us the Second Amendment for a reason, the right to bear arms. So we have to protect it. It's not like, well, let me see. I think I'll follow the First Amendment, but I don't think I'm going to follow the Second Amendment.
Right.
But we don't have the right to do that. I mean, we put our hand on the Bible, and we take an oath
Yes.
to uphold the Constitution. Do we say, well, we take an oath to uphold certain parts of the Constitution? No.
No.
So Eric, this is the difference between all these politicians and their talking points and citizens like me who actually believe in the founding principles of this country. And so when you believe in the founding principles of the country, it's easy to go back to those founding principles as a guideline, as a compass to make decisions, right?
Yeah.
And the Declaration, like I said, gives you principles. The Constitution is the document that puts those principles into action and is the supreme law of the land, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely. No, I appreciate that. No, because again, people, it's not about hunting.
Yeah.
Second Amendment was, if your government comes against you, you got to have a right to defend yourself. against your own
absolutely,
government.
yeah.
And again, going back to the
Yeah.
foundings. Well, this idea of America first, I know there's so many people of different variations of it. To me, it's very simple. We got to take care of our own country before we take care of the rest of the world, including where I come from, Ireland. So in America, in South Carolina, as governor, how would you incentivize a culture of truly, I guess, South Carolina first before we start dealing with everyone else's problem?
Well, I'm going to be different on this particular issue for one reason, and that is I don't believe in these slogans. Because these are nice talking points for the politicians.
Right. A lot of times it is true. Yeah.
And I don't believe in these slogans. Now, the way President Trump used it was a little bit different because he said and the context he used it. By the way, he and I went to the same business school.
That's right.
Sort of same background, he's never run for office. I've never run for office. He's a results-oriented guy, so am I. And all these people talk about who was there first for him. And Scott Bessent, his Treasury Secretary, and I were the only two individuals that actually gave him a 7-figure donation.
Wow.
We put our money where our mouth is. And by the way, I don't seek his endorsement like everyone else because I said, I don't seek endorsements from anyone. I think it's an assault on self-governance. My job is to convince people through forums like this as to why they should vote for me. But going back to that, his context was we were doing the Lindsey Graham thing, wars all over the world, and he said let's take care of America first.
Yeah.
Let's make sure that we take care of our country first, and let's make sure we keep our jobs here and those type of things. That's the context. Now, all these politicians have taken it and made South Carolina first and all that. I think we're Americans first and foremost. And I think we need to make sure we take care of us Americans. I don't like drawing the lines around South Carolina first or Charleston County first or, some city first. And I think all these divisions are political and go back to God. If you're a believer like we are, for believers, we're all children of God.
Amen. Right.
And God wants us to find the common good. And that's what God wants us to do.
Yeah.
We can have disagreements, but God wants us to find the common good.
And that's liberty, right?
Yeah.
A right to agree to disagree. And
Yeah.
during COVID, there are people where I'm from in Ireland who couldn't even go to certain grocery stores to be approved.
Terrible.
Nonsense. Well, in terms of corruption, now this is a big thing you've talked about, and I want to give you an ample chance to talk about this. How do we root out corruption in South Carolina? How do we get rid of it?
This is something your viewers probably do not know, and this is the heart of it. If we don't fix it, we'll never fix it. Which is South Carolina is 40 out of 50 in campaign donation transparency, which means that the Supreme Court ruled many years ago that you can have independent groups like PACs and all these donate unlimited amounts of money because it's a free speech issue for them. Right. However, they left it up to the states on disclosure rules. South Carolina doesn't have any disclosure rules. So now when you have a PAC, it says Patriots for something PAC, or Patriots for South Carolina PAC. When these PACs can run ads for their favorite candidates, right? You and me as citizens, when we go vote for these candidates, we do not know who the source donations are to that PAC.
No idea, right.
You can go into AI, you'll never find out. So what happens is these politicians are bought and paid for before we even vote for them. And that same dynamic has happened all over in the legislature. 31% of the legislature are trial lawyers. Less than 1% of the working population is trial lawyers. Why? A lot of the trial lawyer money is dark money. They go in there and they pass the rules. And just look at all the trial lawyer nonsense that goes on in our state. So the first thing that has to happen, and that's why I don't take any money, because I'd lose the moral high ground if I did. We have to go in there, and this is not a constitutional amendment. This is just the legislature has to change the disclosure rules. So we know where the money is coming from. Who is contributing to these people?
Sounds like common sense to me.
And that's the first thing. Now you're going to say, I'm not going to vote for the guy because he's getting all this trial lawyer money. Unless we do that, Eric, we will never change the corruption. It is so deep right now. It used to be a PAC for a statewide office, right? Yeah. And now all of my opponents are all full of PACs. I mean, 2 new PACs came into the governor's race yesterday. So I'm sitting there, and the only guy who doesn't take money from anyone, looking at all this money, establishment money coming in. But these PACs have become so prolific and so hidden, they're now going down to, house races, mayoral races. They're all the corruption is blowing up. We have to fix it.
Yeah. Well, one thing I'm working on, my own campaign, so to speak, is, and I just know the slogan, so bear with me on this, but the concept is more important, obviously, than the slogan. It's making our country local again. So getting people to support local businesses, churches, nonprofits. So much of our focus is national.
Yes.
But what about the struggling schools, the struggling businesses, the mom and pop? So do you believe in that, like getting our country to focus on locally helping one another?
I not only do I believe in that, I'm actually doing something. Like most people, you can believe and say whatever you want, but I actually do something about it. I don't know if you're familiar with a thing called Hope Florida that Casey DeSantis set up in Florida.
Yes, vaguely, yeah.
And so the DeSantises were family friends, and so with their agreement, we are developing Hope South Carolina. And what Hope South Carolina does is, if you come into the government system, let's say something bad happens to you, your home burned down, you don't have food, whatever. What happens is, instead of becoming dependent on the government, it sets up a network of local nonprofits, local churches, faith-based charities, and this whole network helps these people get off the government payroll, get trained, gives them assistance with food and whatever they need, and then they work with local businesses to place them in jobs.
Oh, that's huge.
35,000 people in Florida with this network. It's very sophisticated now. There's software for it, there's hardware. And so with Casey's help, she gave us the playbook, and we are actually, my foundation is actually developing this whole plan for Hope South Carolina. Exactly that. It'll bring faith-based charities, nonprofits, local businesses, and people together. And these people, the employers in Florida will tell you, are some of the best people because they've been given a chance. They've been given a new opportunity at another start in life, and they turn out to be great employees.
Just so great. Well, you know what? One thing I have to say, things that happen in Florida, a lot of great examples out there. So we got to live it out across the country, like you were saying, Americans being Americans. Well, let me ask you a fun question. So I saw the Jack Nicklaus picture up here. By the way, my dad loved Jack Nicklaus. Was in St. Andrews in 1978 when he won the British Open.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And my grandfather said, if you ever want to see how the game of golf is played, watch the Golden Bear. What do you do for fun when you're not doing all this?
Well, of course I used to play golf. I don't play as much today. Yeah. But a little story about Jack Nicklaus. Jack and I... my foundation works with Jack's children-based charity in Florida. Wow. And so I got to know Jack and Barbara. And yes, he is an amazing golfer, a great sports person. But you really got to get to know Jack as a human being. Yeah. He is one of the nicest, most humble people you've ever met in your life. And I've learned a lot from him. I've learned a lot on leadership, on competing. I asked him a few years ago, I said, Jack, what do you do to stay competitive? Right. He says, Ram, I just say, Jack, don't beat yourself. Challenge yourself to be the best you can be. Don't worry about what someone else is doing. Yeah. And, just little things like that. I've learned a lot from Jack. It's amazing. But yeah, so we do that. As you probably know or don't know, I got a 15-year-old who's You know, she's a freshman in high school. So she keeps us occupied with a bunch of things. We love travel. I lived in Italy for 2.5 years, as you know. I now speak some Italian, actually. Although Isabel speaks fluent Italian. So we do a lot of fun family things, travel, golf, those type of things.
And of course, you're going to First Baptist Charleston
yes,
and
we do
hanging out
that,
at the Playlocks. And
Yeah.
No, that is so great. Well, do you have any last kind of comment for the voters about you or anything else you want them to know before we?
Well, the only reason I'm in this thing for the voters is this. I just wanted people to have an opportunity to say, for the first time in our generation, we have an opportunity to put someone in office who's not bought and paid for. I cannot be bought. No one owns me. I don't go in there and do anything for donors. And I am going to be results focused. I'm all about getting results. That's what I did as a CEO, right? Get results. And so I like to say, you, the voter, can throw a grenade in the swamp and see what crawls out.
A lot of swamps out there.
I'm the grenade. So,
Right.
you know, let's see what crawls out. So I think it's a generational opportunity. But it's really up to the people to decide if they like what they have had. So be it. Now, Senator Kennedy said it right. He said, keep doing what you've always done, and you'll keep getting what you always got. So
Yeah. Well, last thing I'll say on my end is, when you listen to this interview, look back at Ram's life and you make the decision. Now you get to hear much more than 45 seconds about where he actually stands, and make a prayerful decision when you go and vote. We're counting on we, the people, to do the right thing in electing our next governor. But Mr. Ram Reddy, thank you, sir, for doing
Appreciate
this.
it. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to The Corcoran Show, where liberty lives, history speaks, and patriots rise. Stay connected, stay informed, and keep the spirit of liberty alive across America. Godspeed, and we'll see you next time.